Think very hard before you answer the question. Do not quickly answer it. Think very hard. When you slapped him those times, were you attempting to cause him physical pain or physical impairment? Was that what you were attempting to do to him?
No.
What were you attempting to do? What was the reason behind the slapping and stuff? What was it you were attempting to accomplish by slapping?
I was trying to get him to stop telling me to calm down.
Well, it doesn't sound to me like she attempted to interrupt. It's your call. This is 100% your call. I support you either way. I'll let you get back to your parents, okay?
Okay.
In the summer of 2021, a 22-year-old woman from Long Island was living out what looked, from the outside, like a dream. A white van, national parks, a YouTube channel, a fiancé. She posted photographs of canyon walls and wildflower fields, and her followers watched in real time as she crossed the American West. And then, quietly, she stopped posting. No explanation, no goodbye, just silence where a voice used to be. By the time the world started asking where she was, it was already too late. This is the story of Gabby Petito, who she was, what happened to her, and what her case exposed about the systems that were supposed to protect her. Hi, I'm Emily, and today we're examining the death of Gabrielle Venora Petito, a 22-year-old travel blogger from Blue Point, New York, whose disappearance in August 2021 became one of the most widely followed missing persons cases in modern American history. There is no mystery about who was responsible. That was established by forensic evidence and a written confession before the investigation was officially closed. What this case asks us to examine is something more uncomfortable. The warning signs that were visible and documented, the moment a police encounter could have changed everything, and the question of why some missing persons cases consume the national conversation while others are forgotten within a news cycle. Let's look at all of it. Gabrielle Venora Petito was born on March 19, 1999, in Blue Point, a small community on the southern shore of Long Island, New York. She grew up in a blended family. Her parents, Nicole Schmidt and Joseph Petito, separated when she was young but remained active in her life, and both remarried. Gabby was the eldest of 6 siblings and half-siblings across both households. People who knew her consistently described the same qualities. She was gentle, imaginative, and deeply empathetic. She attended Bayport Blue Point High School in Bayport, New York, where she developed an early love for watercolor painting, photography, and the outdoors. She was, by her family's description, a free spirit, someone who experienced the world with a kind of brightness that was difficult to ignore. In 2017, she graduated and spent time in Carolina Beach, North Carolina, working as a hostess and in restaurant kitchens, considering community college before eventually returning to her family's orbit on Long Island. It was around this period that she reconnected with a former classmate from Bayport Blue Point, a quiet, outdoorsy young man named Brian Christopher Laundrie. They had known each other in school without being particularly close. When they found each other again as young adults, the dynamic shifted. By March of 2019, they were officially a couple, and within months, Gabby made a significant decision. She would leave New York and move to Northport, Florida, where Brian lived with his parents, Christopher and Roberta Laundrie. It was a long way from home, and from the family and friends she had always been close to. She went anyway. The people who loved her noticed the distance, not just the geographic kind. In Northport, the couple settled into early adult life. Both worked at the local Publix, Gabby as a pharmacy technician, Brian in the grocery department. When the pandemic arrived in early 2020 and upended the routines of young people everywhere, they quit and looked outward. In July of 2020, Brian proposed during a hike. Gabby later wrote on Instagram that a firefly had landed on her hand when she said yes. She was 21 years old, and the engagement felt, to her, like the beginning of everything she had been working toward. The dream they built together was specific: a life on the road, documented online, turned into a creative career. In December of 2020, Gabby purchased a 2012 Ford Transit Connect van, and they converted it together. A handmade bed platform, storage units, soft painted walls, flowers, and artwork that Gabby added herself. They launched a YouTube channel called Nomadic Static and planned a 4-month loop across the American West: Colorado, Utah, Wyoming, and beyond. To save money before they left, Gabby worked 50-hour weeks at Taco Bell while Brian took shifts at a juice bar. They were methodical about it. On June 17, 2021, they drove back to Blue Point for Gabby's younger brother's graduation. Her family saw her happy, excited, and full of plans. They had no idea it would be the last time they would see her in person. 2 weeks later, on July 2nd, they pulled out of Blue Point in the white Ford Transit and pointed west. Her first post from the road came on July 4th, a photograph from Monument Rocks in Kansas. Over the following weeks, her feed filled with sunlit images from the Great Sand Dunes, Zion, and Bryce Canyon. To her followers, it looked exactly like what it was supposed to be. Gabby's best friend, Rose Davis, later told investigators that Brian had shown controlling behavior throughout their relationship, discouraging Gabby from pursuing things he didn't approve of, finding ways to limit what she could do without ever being overt about it. Rose described it as a pattern of emotional manipulation that Gabby didn't always recognize for what it was. Another friend said the relationship had very high highs and very low lows. On the road, confined to a van with no private space and no natural breaks from each other, those patterns had nowhere to go except inward and then outward. The posts on social media were joyful. What was happening inside that van, away from the camera, was a different story. On the afternoon of August 12th, a witness called 911 to report a couple fighting outside the Moonflower Community Cooperative in Moab, Utah. The caller said they had seen the man slap the woman, that both had been running up and down the sidewalk, and that he had struck her again before they drove away.
What were they doing?
We drove by and the gentleman was slapping the girl.
He was slapping her?
Yes, and then we stopped. They ran up and down the sidewalk. He proceeded to hit her, hopped in the car, and they drove off.
Okay, you said it's a white van?
White van. I can give you the license plate if you give me 1 sec. I took a picture of it.
Moab City Police identified the van near the entrance to Arches National Park and conducted a traffic stop. What followed was captured on body camera footage that would later be viewed by millions of people worldwide. Gabby was crying. Not just tearful, but nearly hyperventilating, struggling to complete a sentence without wiping her face. She apologized repeatedly, described her OCD, blamed herself for the tension between them. Brian, by contrast, was calm, composed, even relaxed. He described his attempts to give her space to calm down. He had visible scratches on his face and arms. What the officers did not know, because the 911 dispatcher had failed to relay the full content of the original call, was that the witness had reported seeing Brian strike Gabby before the stop took place. Without that information, officers characterized the incident as a mental health crisis rather than a domestic violence situation, and chose not to make an arrest.
Think very hard before you answer the question. Do not quickly answer. Think very hard. When you slapped him those times, were you attempting to cause him physical pain or physical impairment? Was that what you were attempting to do to him?
No.
What were you attempting to do? What was the reason behind the slapping and stuff? What was it you were attempting to accomplish by slapping?
I was trying to get him to stop telling me to calm down.
Well, it doesn't sound to me like she attempted to injure him. It's your call. This is 100% your call. I support you either way. I'll let you get back to your parents, okay?
Okay.
They arranged for Brian to spend the night at a motel. Gabby stayed in the van at a campground, alone. The Moab City Police Department later launched an internal review of how its officers handled the encounter, and the chief of police took a leave of absence during that process. The couple reunited the following morning and continued the trip. 5 days later, on August 17th, Brian flew alone from Salt Lake City to Tampa, Florida, leaving Gabby behind in Utah. His family's attorney later stated he had gone to deal with a storage unit. He returned on August 23rd. Gabby spent those 6 days at a Fairfield Inn near the airport. On August 19th, during that time alone, she posted the only video ever uploaded to their YouTube channel, a quietly edited look at their travels so far. It was the last creative thing she left behind. On August 25th, Gabby called her mother Nicole and told her they had reached Wyoming and were camping near the Spread Creek dispersed camping area. She sounded well. That same day, she posted what would be her final Instagram photograph, a smiling image in front of a butterfly mural outside a restaurant in Ogden, Utah. On August 27th, witnesses placed the couple at the Mary Piglet's restaurant in Jackson Hole. Brian, visibly agitated and arguing with staff over the bill, Gabby, tearful and apologetic. That evening, a text from her phone asked her mother for help contacting someone named Stan, Gabby's grandfather, whom she never called by his first name. A second message days later referenced Yosemite, when Gabby had told her mother they were heading to Yellowstone, over 800 miles away. Nicole said both messages felt wrong from the first read. After that, nothing. On September 11th, more than 10 days after Brian returned without her, Gabby's family filed a formal missing persons report. Within days, her face was everywhere. The hashtag #FindGabby trended across Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter simultaneously. True crime communities, online investigators, and 24-hour cable news networks had all latched onto the case at once, in a way that was without precedent for a missing persons investigation. Search teams and FBI agents mobilized in Wyoming, using cell tower data, digital tracking, and eyewitness accounts to narrow the area. A travel vlogger submitted dashcam footage that had unknowingly captured the white Ford Transit parked off a dirt road near Spread Creek on the evening of August 27th. That footage helped confirm the search area. On September 19th, investigators found human remains in the Bridger-Teton National Forest, approximately 900 feet from where the van had last been parked. She had been left partially buried in brush and wild sage. An autopsy conducted by Teton County coroner Dr. Brent Blue determined the cause of death to be manual strangulation, with blunt force trauma to the head and neck also noted. The manner of death was ruled homicide. Gabby Petito was 22 years old. The estimated time of death was around August 27th, the same day she was last seen alive at the restaurant in Jackson Hole. Her body had been there for nearly 4 weeks before it was found. The news broke open a parallel conversation that many felt was long overdue. Critics pointed out that hundreds of missing persons cases, particularly those involving women and girls of color, received a fraction of the media attention devoted to Gabby's disappearance. Advocates gave this disparity a name: missing white woman syndrome. It was an uncomfortable reckoning, and it was happening publicly and in real time, alongside the grief. Gabby's family acknowledged the disparity openly, and it would directly shape the mission of the foundation they later built in her name. The search for Brian Laundrie continued for more than a month. Alleged sightings poured in from across the country. None were confirmed. Law enforcement focused their attention locally, believing he may never have left Florida at all. On October 20th, Chris and Roberta Laundrie joined the search at the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park, which bordered the Carlton Reserve and had recently reopened after flooding. Hours in, they found items belonging to Brian near a previously submerged trail. Nearby, partially underwater, investigators discovered skeletal human remains. Dental records confirmed the identification. An autopsy determined he had died from a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head around September 13th, the day he walked into the Carlton Reserve alone, and his parents waited 4 days before reporting him missing. Among the items recovered near his remains was a spiral notebook sealed in a dry bag. In January of 2022, the FBI officially closed the investigation and disclosed key details from its contents. Brian had written a confession claiming Gabby had been seriously injured on a hike and had asked him to end her suffering, that he had done so out of love. The forensic evidence contradicted his account entirely. Manual strangulation is a sustained, deliberate act. There was blunt force trauma to her head and neck. Nothing in the physical record supported the narrative he left behind. Gabby's mother was unambiguous in her response. He was a liar who tried to control the story even from beyond it. In March of 2023, the Petito family reached a wrongful death settlement against Brian's estate, with the funds directed toward the Gabby Petito Foundation. Florida's Gabby Petito Act, passed in direct response to what happened in Moab, created 12 mandatory questions officers must now ask potential victims during domestic violence calls. There's a moment in the police body camera footage that I keep thinking about. Gabby is sitting in the back of the police car, crying, struggling to catch her breath, apologizing over and over. Across the parking lot, Brian appears calm, relaxed, even joking with officers. The police made a decision based on the information they had, but that information was incomplete from the very beginning. The dispatcher never relayed what the witness had actually reported. I don't think this is a story about bad police officers. I think it's a story about a system that failed to recognize what it was seeing. The way Gabby behaves in that footage, the hyperventilating, the self-blame, the tendency to downplay what happened, is something experts on domestic violence often recognize immediately. It can be what fear looks like when the person causing it is someone you love, depend on, and are standing beside while talking to authority figures. The problem is that not everyone in a position to help is trained to recognize those signs. And even when that training exists, it isn't always applied consistently. But this case also raises a much larger question, one that extends far beyond Gabby Petito. Every year, hundreds of missing persons cases receive little public attention. Families spend months, sometimes years, searching for answers without the resources, media coverage, and national focus that surrounded Gabby's disappearance within days. That disparity is real. It has been documented for decades, and it existed long before Gabby's case. Her family acknowledged that reality openly, and the foundation they later created has worked to bring attention to it. But recognizing a problem and solving it are two very different things, and there is still a long way to go. Gabby Petito wanted to be a travel blogger. She wanted to share her experiences, tell stories through photographs, and connect with people she had never met. She was 22 years old. She was just beginning her life. I'm Emily. Thank you for watching. Take care of yourselves.